Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the series of the online courses about the mercy of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, today we would be talking about the rules of engagement in Islam and as per the teachings of the Prophet of Islam. Well, there are many rules of engagement of the combats which are talked and spoken by the Prophet of Islam. In the pre-Islamic times, there were no recognized rules of combat, and the defeated enemies were treated in a very cruel manner by the conquerors. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ made history by giving fair rules of engagement and defined that we are allowed to fight in self-defense against those who fight us without transgressing through fighting others who are not part of the combat. He ﷺ gave the following rules of engagement. Strict caution against indiscriminate killing, remaining faithful to the rules of engagement when indulging in combat, unlawfulness of killing children, women and the elderly, unlawfulness of killing priests and the monks, unlawfulness of destroying trees and buildings, consideration for animals during the combat. That means not to kill the animals as well. Fair treatment of prisoners of war and prohibition of human mutilation. So in this presentation, we will also look at the history of Khawarij terrorists and the signs of their followers till the end of times. And let us remind you that this content, the content of this PPT has been taken from the book called Fatwa on Terrorism, which was written by Shaykh al-Islam Dr. Tahir al-Khadri Hafizahullah. Let's move on. So there's a caution against indiscriminate murder. It is narrated by Ibn Abbas that Rabi anhu, that a man asked him about someone who kills a Muslim deliberately, to which he, Rabi anhu, replied, if anyone kills a believer deliberately, desperately, wantedly, the punishment for him is hell, and there will be that would be the place where he would remain forever. God will be angry with him and is angry with him and rejects him and has prepared a tremendous torment for him. This was among the last verses to be revealed. There was no abrogation of this verse after the Prophet ﷺ's passing away from this world, and there is no revelation after the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. The man asked again, what if the killer repented and believed, did righteous deeds, and was guided towards truth? To which Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, how can there be repentance for him when I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, may his mother be bereft of him? The person who kills another deliberately, the slain will bring his killer on the day of resurrection with his right or left hand, and his head in his right or left hand, and with his jugular veins flowing with blood until he draws near the throne. And that is, he would present the person, his killer, in front of Allah Ta'ala and will say, O Lord, ask your slave why he killed me. This is narrated by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad. The remaining faithful to covenants enacted with enemy combatants. This was a matter of great importance to the Prophet ﷺ. He declared himself free of those who are treacherous, even if the treacherous one was a Muslim, who recited kalima and said that he was a Muslim. And even if one betrayed, one was a non-Muslim. So even if the person who was killed was non-Muslim, the Nabi Karim ﷺ did not give preference to Muslim in this matter if the Muslim killed a non-Muslim deliberately without any reason. So the Prophet ﷺ said, if anyone offers a man security and then kills him, I absolve myself of the killer, even if the person killed is a non-believer. And this is mentioned in Bukhari, in Tariq al-Kabir, 322. Let's move on. It's also very important that children must be taken great care. There's a special status of children in Islam as well. In the recent past, we've seen children deliberately killed in their schools, and that is against the Islamic teachings, and that is something which the extremists do deliberately in the name of Islam, trying to bring discredit towards Islam. So protecting the lives of the children of an enemy combatant as well, not just Muslims, but non-Muslims as well. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and he counseled and told and directed the army that was to fight in the battle of Muta. Now Muta is a place in Jordan, and Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a piece of army towards this place called Muta in Jordan, and the commander of this army was Hazrat Zayd bin Haritha. So while sending this army to Muta, Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam advised this army and said, I advise you to fear Allah and to consider the welfare of the Muslims with you. Do not kill a child, a woman, or decrepit elderly person. So this was obviously related to those people, those children, those women, and those elderly people who were from the other side of the army, who were those who belonged to the family members of those army who was about to come and fight against the Muslims. So obviously, Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam was concerned about the well-being of the children and the women folk and the elderly of the non-Muslims. Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said, do not kill a monk, do not kill the scholars, do not kill the religious figures of anyone, maybe it be Christians, Jews, Hindus, Sikhs. So while Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this, probably it was related to the Christians, but it applies to the religious figures of any other religion as well. It can be monks of the Jews, it can be the monks of the Hindus, it can be the monks of the Sikhs, it can be monks of Buddhists, and so on. The religious figures must not be killed, even if the Muslim army is fighting against any other people and fighting for the name of Islam. So it is prohibited for the Muslim army not to kill any monk, any religious figure. So concern for the religious well-being of the others as well. Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not kill a person who lives in a sacred sanctuary. He also counseled, do not kill a monk, nor should their places of worship be demolished. Be it be a church, be it be a synagogue, be it be a temple, that need not be, that should not be, and that must not be demolished and destroyed. Do not destroy a building, not just the places of worship, be it be any other building. It's a common building that should not be destroyed. So Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, build and develop, not destroy and devastate. The Prophet alaihi wasallam said, do not cut a palm tree, do not cut palm trees, do not cut down trees, do not destroy a building. Anything which is constructive. See how constructive Islam is, that it's not allowing its army men to even destroy something which is not coming in front of them as a hurdle in the in the war or in the combats. And he alayhi salam also said, do not slaughter a camel or cow except for the food. Do not drown bees nor burn them. This is narrated by Bayhaqi and his Sunan al-Kubra, hadith number 17,904. Islam is also mercy for the animals. While marching through a valley on the way to Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ saw a female dog visibly frightened by the great numbers of people coming towards her, such that she snarled over the pups protectively as they fed from her. So he ﷺ commanded a man from his companions, Jubayl bin Suraqa, to stand guard over the mother dog so that no one from the army would disturb her, nor her younger ones. Beautiful religion. There was a prohibition on mutilation as well that was mentioned in the first slide. So let us talk about that as well. Imran ibn al-Hussein said the Prophet ﷺ never stood to give us a sermon except that he commanded us to give charity and forbade us from mutilation. Allah the Most Exalted says of the righteous, they give food. Allah is talking about those who are very righteous, those who are the godly people. Allah Ta'ala himself says, they give food for love of God to the poor, to the orphans, and to the captive. The Prophet ﷺ said, I enjoin you to treat prisoners of war well. I enjoin you to treat the prisoners of war well. So where comes the matter of mutilating the bodies of the slain in the wars as well? So these hadith on the slide are the extracts from the books of hadith narrated by Ahmad and Abu Dawud. Let's move on. It's very essential to pardon, forgive, and over revenge. Forgiveness over the revenge, I'm sorry. The Prophet ﷺ did not only forgive the individuals, he pardoned entire tribes, not just one or two individuals. One of the most well-known stances of the Prophet ﷺ is his saying during the conquest of Mecca to those who fought him for more than 2 decades. He said, O people of the Quraysh, what do you think I will do with you today? They replied, we think you will treat us well, the noble brother as a noble brother, or son of a noble brother. He said, go, for you are free now. Go, for you are free. So Islam is salam. We say salam alaikum. Islam is salam, and that has been proven by the noble character, by the noble response by the Prophet ﷺ, of the Prophet ﷺ, that despite being troubled for over 2 decades, over 20 years, not just 1 or 2 days, not just 20 days or 20 months, 20 years, 2 decades, Nabi Karim ﷺ is pardoning them and saying, go away, you're free. There's nothing that I will do to you, despite all the troubles that you gave to me and to all those who followed me. Let's also talk about the Kharijites, the Khawarij. Let us also talk about the description of theirs and the signs. Khawarij has been, have been as a black mark, have been existing under the name of Islam, under the umbrella of Islam. They are not actually a part of Islam, but they have been taking the name of Islam ever since centuries now. So let's discuss about their descriptions and signs. So the points which are mentioned in the slides are actually the sayings of Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these are all points recorded in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, muttafaq alayh. The first point that Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about the Kharijis is that they will be young in age. Secondly, their slogans and pretentious talks will be better than others in moving. It means it would seemingly look very good. Seemingly they would be very appealing. Thirdly, Nabi Karim alayhi salatu taslim also said that they will have thick, unkempt beard. They would not maintain their beards. They might keep a fisted beard or more than that in length, but it would be unkempt. They wouldn't maintain it. They wouldn't keep it good looking, and they would have very thick beards. And fourthly, Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said they will wear their lower garments up upon their legs, high upon their legs. They keep it well above their ankles. This is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. So Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam said they will be the dogs of hell. They are the most evil of those slain under the heavens. Anyone who's slain, they are the most evil of those slain under the heavens. So they would be the dogs of hell, is what Nabi Karim sallallahu alaihi wasallam told about them. Far be they being called as Muslims. Let us talk more about them. We are talking about them because there's a need for common Muslims as well as non-Muslims to understand who these people are, and why is that because of them there should not be any reason of Islam getting targeted and discredited. Because of them, Islam gets discredited and gets a very bad name. But what exactly they do is not as per the teachings of Islam. So it's very important for people to know and understand who these people are and what do they do. So Kharijis are deviant and heretical sect. which came to being soon after the Prophet ﷺ passed away from this world. They used to strictly observe the outward religious acts. Seemingly, they looked as if they are very, very staunch followers of Sharia, which in turn instilled in them with conceited belief that they were staunch Muslims, and they considered all others as either disbelievers or disobedient. They did not consider others to follow Islam completely. Then Satan planted seeds of arrogance in their hearts, which in turn caused them to see themselves as pure Muslims and others are as impure, no matter they are Muslims. This mindset allowed them to kill people, spread terror, and plunder wealth and property without fear of sin. The historical records prove that the Kharijis considered blood a cheap commodity. They had no reservations about killing people and cared not one iota for those who were brought up with the Prophet ﷺ and in his spiritual training, which means they killed even the Sahaba. The Prophet ﷺ made it categorically clear that these people would continue to emerge time and time again. And that's why we see them today as well. So it is easy to recognize them in the modern day as well as the modern day Kharijites, for they share the same traits of those of the old, of their predecessors. They too shed the blood of people, even today. They too brutally slaughter women and children and challenge the authority of the state. They too attack mosques. They murder peaceful people who are engaged in worship and target them in marketplaces. They too call their dastardly deeds as jihad. All the current acts of terrorism committed by the so-called mujahideen are but a continuation of the Khariji doctrine and ideology. The beloved Prophet ﷺ beheld the state of affairs until the day of the resurrection and also foretold of terrorism that would be committed in the name of religion of Islam. He not only distinguished jihad from murder, but also warned Ummah of those who would perpetrate violence and bloodshed in the name of the religion of Islam. He clearly described the behavior patterns and signs of those so-called mujahideen, and he urged the Ummah to stay away from the turmoil. And now a comprehensive description of the Kharijis and their signs. A little more in detail. If we gather all of Hadith reports and the statements of the companions and scholars concerning the Kharijites, we can develop a composite image and comprehensive description of them. In this slide, we're just reading the English translation. So here we go. They will be young in age. They will be brainwashed. They will have thick, unkempt, untidy beards. They will wear their lower garments high upon their legs. They will emerge from the east of the sanctuaries. The prophetic decree that the turmoil of the Kharijites, let's discuss more about them. They will continue to appear until the last of them appears with the Antichrist. They would come with the Dajjal, which implies that they will continue to emerge in every generation, generations after generation, centuries after centuries. Their faith will not pass their throats. It will not get below their throats. It means Islam will not enter into their hearts. They would be ignorant of the actual and the real and the peaceful teachings of Islam, which implies that their faith is shallow and skin deep, and that the qualities of the true faith will not be visible from their conduct. They will be extremists in religious matters, and the believer will consider his own prayers and fasting to be insignificant in comparison to theirs. They would read the Quran more than a common Muslim would do. They would recite Salah more than a common Muslim. They would pray. They would offer prayers. They would, keep the fast more than a common Muslim. So overall, whatever they did, the Hajj that they would do, whatever they would do, it would look to a common Muslim that whatever that a common Muslim is doing is insignificant to what these Kharijis are doing actually. All right, let's proceed. They will speak the words of the best of the people, which implies that they will raise religious slogans and make Islamic demands, as if a Muslim is doing it. Their slogans and pretentious talks will be better than others in moving. They will be extremely oppressive, bloodthirsty, and violent. They'll be the most evil of the creation. They will be the most, and can you imagine the different creations of Allah Ta'ala? If you take a look at the creation of Allah, Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is not talking only about the people living on the earth. He is saying the creation, and the creation of the Allah Ta'ala is beyond just humanity. The human beings, the birds, the animals, the Kharijis will be worse than the animals, even than the animals. Yeah. And then moving on, they will defame their rulers and charge them with misguidance. They would say that everybody is misguided. Even the rulers of theirs, they say, are misguided. Yeah. They will defame their rulers and charge them with misguidance. This is what we had today to talk about the Kharijis and the extremism, as well as the rules which were taught by Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in the name of having mercy and compassion towards also those who were coming against them. So Islam is all about mercy. It's all about compassion. So as we told at the beginning of the slide of the presentation, that this extract of this presentation has been from the Fatwa on Terrorism and Suicide Bombings, which was written and released by Minhaj al-Quran, which was written by Shaykh al-Islam Dr. Muhammad Tahir al-Qadiri, Hafizahullah. And let me also talk about a little bit the online course, which would continue on the weekends. If you want to know more about the online course, about Islam and about the seerah of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, please feel free to reach out to us by writing an email to us at minhajyouthIndia@gmail.com. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.